This is a very different kind of presentation than the one I gave this morning. This morning was a lot of fun, but it was half entertainment. Let's be truthful. This is a business presentation. And because for this to work, it has to be a set of business decisions for farmers. So we're going to talk about three questions. First, is there money available for commodity nutrients? Secondly, what is the business challenge for wheat? And third, can we move the needle for wheat? This first one is for all of these commodity nutrient potential projects that we're talking about. It goes much broader than wheat, and then we dig into wheat specifically. The first question is, where's the money? Just so you get an idea of how big they are. Chronic disease and mental health conditions, this is a part of the healthcare industry, is about $3.7 trillion a year. This is the cardiovascular disease and diabetes chunk of it that we talked about this morning. And then these are the other chronic diseases and mental conditions. And this is basically most of the healthcare industry. It doesn't include like if you get hit by a car or something like that, because if you eat a really healthy pastrami sandwich right before you get hit by a car, there's only so much that it helps you. It's almost double the carbon fuels market, which is of course important for farming and a lot of with the biofuels. And food overall, about a third of food is the farm revenues, and there's other food right there. And this is really important, the relative size, because for example, with biofuels, I was talking to some of the people that ran major research projects around biofuels. And they said, oh, the money for those research projects came from the marketing groups of the carbon fuels producers, that they're so big that they're like, oh, as part of our advertising effort, we're going to fund a major research or what is for agriculture, a major research project. And so that's just something that you have to get into the details to see what specifically is possible, but the size does matter. Secondly, where's the money? And we have to, I had a mentor when I was working in corporate strategy, and he said, look, 80% of corporate strategy is if it's a big number and it's positive, you do more of it. If it's a big number and it's negative, you do less of it. And if it's a smaller number, well, you got to get more of them right than wrong in order to be successful, but treat it that way. So what are the big numbers? So first, for farming, this is just USDA numbers, and $543 billion in revenue, roughly 50% animal, 50% plant at a national level. Obviously, individual farmers are going to differ hugely depending on what their focus is. This is 2022, $152 billion of profit, of which $10 billion of that came from the government, but the majority of it was business profit. I mean, without government involvement. That's almost double what it was 5 years previous to that, at $88 billion. In terms of the revenue, this is the wheat portion of it. Obviously, that's not the driving it. And it's really interesting. You think, wheat is the biggest consumed food when you're looking from a human diet perspective. And there it is at the bottom in terms of farm revenues. It's not aligned at all. Second thing is just, where's the money? There appears to be enough money in nutrition and resilience to materially benefit farm profit. Now, so this is $152 billion. That's total farm profit, just as a comparison. So if you think about the different sources of money, of course, there's corporate commitments like, Grupo Bimbo has done in the bakery space, targeted supply chains for schools and other places and traditional products. And just for reference, the entire biofuels market is about $47 billion. Of course, that $47 billion includes, money that is going to processors. It includes the cost of the inputs for the farm, et cetera. But you can see it's about $47 billion. And if you look at the farm bill and private conservation, the crop insurance part of the farm bill is roughly $14 billion. And then you got all these other pieces of conservation, nutrition, resilience. Of course, when you're talking about a specific project, you got to go into greater detail and say, okay, for this particular project, where is the money and how is it going to be structured? But it looks like overall, when you think about the money, and the resilience fund is right there, that's about private resilience funds. It looks like there's a big enough pot of money that it's worth digging into and saying, let's look farther. So if you take that general background and you say wheat, what is the biggest challenge for wheat? As we heard this morning, wheat plays, oops, how did that happen? Wheat plays an important role in the crop rotation on many farms. It's a big part of farming businesses, and it can be a very important part of the profitable businesses. But it's financially unattractive versus other grains. It's just not really fantastic on its own. So from a strategy perspective, what we're thinking about is, what are the strengths of wheat? It's America's favorite food. It's the largest source of dietary fiber in the American diets. And you take those two things and you say, okay, these are strengths of wheat. How do we leverage that from a business perspective? And that leads to the increasing financial attraction by helping fight chronic disease by increasing fiber content. There's a ton of money over there to fight disease, and you've got wheat strengths include the capability to fight it. So let's figure out what are the abilities to actually do that from a concrete business perspective. Of course, you got to make sure that the wheat works on a real farm. It's high yielding, high quality, it's a commodity. Yes, there may be additional opportunities for an entrepreneurial farmer to an identity preserved, specialty products. Great. But if it's a commodity, it has to work like a commodity. That's, the science, and that's just given. But can we move the needle for wheat? And I'm going to talk a little bit on this slide about, of course, it has to deliver farmer value, consistently more profit from wheat. If you want to begin to reverse some of the negative trends in terms of reduction in wheat, it needs to be consistently more profitable. It can't increase the risk. It needs to have revenues that work in a farm business. And we've been talking about some of this and how can it work. It needs to be common sense. If there is money from government, it needs to be more than paid back. It can't be a subsidy in the normal sense. Just before the break, one person asked, well, why have government involved at all? And I think that there's a couple answers to that. One is that I think back to Nathan Mueller's slide where he talked about wheat to reduce risk. And he said, look, wheat takes rain in the summer, which is a different time than soy takes rain and corn takes rain. And by looking for different revenue sources, some from public coffers, some from business, some from resilience, in any given year, you're not sure which one is going to hit. But if you have multiple things out in the fire, that reduces the risk and allows you the opportunity to balance and get more likely to have a positive outcome. The other is that, as we talk, I think that there's two pieces. We've talked about how government has a major role in healthcare. As long as you believe that government will not completely eliminate that role and will continue to have a role in healthcare, projects like we're talking about today are really important because they are crazy cheaper than alternatives. As a taxpayer, I told the Nebraska Wheat Board, this project with the Coalition for Grain Fiber is about 13 days a year, 12 days a year when I pay for my own health insurance. And the 13th day is the day I pay my taxes. And I want all of those to go down. And as long as the government is paying for some health care, this is a cheaper way to do it. And Jean Ann also mentioned that there are already public health activities. You know, there's a dietary fiber month. This fits into the things that are already going on. So I think that I just want to answer that. Commodity opportunities, grow it, hedge it, sell it. Easy. It needs to work in that way. And yes, we have had some conversations with like the folks on the crop insurance that there's no expectation that this should have any negative effects on crop insurance because we're talking about wheat. Entrepreneurial opportunities, those are bonuses, definitely, hugely. You know, if you got all kinds of different increased nutrient, increased fiber varieties that people want and that are desired, thumbs up. If we can make with commodities or with the others excitement around what's going on and that leads to more opportunities, we love it. So, and I just pulled together just to facilitate conversation coming up about what, you know, directionally looks like about a $25 an acre opportunity if you target it. The 2029 Farm Bill health incentive. We've had a number of different conversations about, well, where would it fit in the Farm Bill? What could it look like? How could it work? And Jake Westland will be talking more in detail about that. But as we've talked about various options for it, the one that looks the most promising, where it's basically reimbursed certified seed. The easiest way to know if someone has grown increased fiber wheat, particularly if you want to sell it as a commodity, is that they have the certification that says that they grew a certified increased fiber variety. Because that's like, yeah, this wheat is what we say it is. And so that you have that proof, and then you just get reimbursed for the seed. And you can always say, depending on what the targets are in the negotiation, you can say, well, it's reimbursed at 50% rate, 100% rate, 150% of the cost of the seed. That part is negotiable, but it looks like the easiest route is the reimbursed seed. And that's put in at about $22 an acre. For people that are switching from bin seed to certified seed, well, there is, and this is a number from UNL, an estimated about $6.75 additional benefit to switching from bin seed to certified seed. And why did they put that number there? They say, well, first, it's just easier to get a true pure variety if it's certified seed, that you're going to have on average a slightly higher yield from that. And of course, the fact that bin seed isn't completely free unless you consider that your time and your effort and your energy is completely free, because there's a cost to cleaning it. There's a cost to using it. There's a $6 a bushel or a $5 a bushel a cost of the seed itself. So that's what they put in terms of the values. So this is the policy piece of it. What is the value of the Farm Resilience Financial Assistance Program? Man, that's a mouthful. This is what Nathan talked about. And depending on the specific program, it's $5 to up to $20 an acre. Most of them are smaller than that, but it's 5 to 12 for most part. If you put kind of indicative values for the people that aren't growing wheat right now, if you're adding wheat to soy at 3 bushels, you know, you're talking about $70 an acre. The corn from adding wheat, 18 bushels at $30. Now, obviously, about half that if you're talking about Iowa, as he talked about, depending on the geography, this is changing. An entrepreneurial option. You know, if Grupo Bimbo says, I want 100% increased fiber wheat, and if they're paying 30 cents a bushel, that's about 14 bucks a bushel, 14 bucks an acre. And this is all the first step. One of the questions that I thought was really interesting that we got before this session was the person's biggest concern was, how do I know that I'm not going to be forced to do this? And this is one thing where I think a lot of communication is really key, because if you say, you know what, increased arabinous island wheat is great, I want money for increased arabinous island wheat, I would expect that one of the possible outcomes is like, no money, but you got to do it because it's good for society, right? I mean, that's what they usually ask farmers to do anyway, right? Something's good for society, so just do it and don't worry about your businesses. I think that one of the best and strongest responses to that is that we're interested in increasing nutrients and commodities. And there's a lot of different opportunities here. And we want the scientists and the business people and everyone to work together to be innovative and creative and deliver multiple opportunities here. You don't want to tell us which ones to take because government is really not good at that. In fact, they're really bad. But if you allow us to work with it and find the ones that are really opportunistic, there's huge amounts of potential savings here. There's a huge amounts of potential benefits with step 1 after step 2, step 3, step 4. And then you can get the opportunity where it makes sense, where you say, you know what, farmers who want to do this one, here's the benefit to it. Farmers who want to do this one, here's the benefit to it. And some of those are definitely free market, where Grupo Bimbo or Nissin Foods or the others say, I want that. And other ones are ones where, in order to enhance the health of our communities, we say we need this. And some are just, I really do think the third category is an interesting one, where the combination of interests are coming together, where you say, for farm resilience, ecological benefit, and human health, here's an opportunity where if you do A, B, and C, you're going to get some payment for all of those. We're going to have questions and comments about that. But I think first, Jake Westland is going to be talking about the policy piece of this. And then we'll talk about, have a conversation amongst you guys about what do you like, what do you dislike, what's important to you.